The second big area that I see as an enormous opportunity to really improve speed and to make that e-commerce faster is with real-time merchandising. And merchandising means lots of different things in the retail ecosystem. There are, of course, the actual purchases and the buys that are made of merchandise that store buyers actually when they make purchase orders to purchase vendor inventory. But when I talk about real-time merchandising from an e-commerce standpoint, it's about presenting that inventory in an accurate fashion to shoppers, and it is the manner in which that inventory is presented, the content that's presented, the inventory levels that are shared, and the pricing that often is associated with that. One of the things that is really, really important to keep in mind with respect to e-commerce merchandising is that whereas in a physical store, if an item is out of stock, it's just not there and you don't see it, and that's the way that, kind of that out of stock information is presented to shoppers. And because the shopper often will have a line of sight to the rest of the store, there are often alternatives that a shopper can go to, even if a particular item they may be looking for is out of stock. Now, that's a little bit of a challenge in the e-commerce world unless retailers are very, very explicit with actually showcasing what's in stock, what's out of stock, and also with showcasing recommendation engines when things are out of stock. Now, this is just an example of a screenshot I'd pulled from a retailer where, it's a bit of a challenge because it's an apparel category where there are a number of items, and usually retailers will just eliminate whatever item may be surfaced if the item is out of stock. But in this particular case, every item except one is out of stock. One SKU is in stock. So you have, kind of that transparency that has to be shown because of the nature of this particular product. So what retailers can typically do to help save the sale is to often provide an alternative for the products that a consumer may want that are out of stock. So nearly half of consumers, 46%, say that they want some type of an out of stock recommendation. So to be able to provide that in real time is really quite critical because it can help to save that sale. The other piece that is also important is that with real time information, what you end up with is fewer cancel rates. That's very, very common in retailers that don't update their inventory in a more rapid fashion. What will happen, particularly during critical time frames like the holiday season, is that consumers will order items and the item is out of stock from an e-com standpoint, and the retailer is unable to fulfill that item, so they then have to turn around and send an email within a day or two that says that the order's been canceled and the retailer can't fulfill that. And that's a terrible customer experience. It's terrible for the near term of the shopper being disappointed. It's also a really, really good way to ensure that shopper never comes back and is a repeat customer either. So that becomes really, really problematic. So the more that real-time merchandising is there, the better. Another aspect of real-time merchandising that we know is very, very important in the online retail world is dynamic pricing. And the reason that dynamic pricing is important is because there is just so much transparency and visibility with online retail. Consumers are increasingly using their mobile devices to do price comparison shopping, and often they do look at other e-commerce sites to anchor themselves in what the price of a product can or should be. And this is just an example of 3 different retailers, Amazon, Sears, and Best Buy, and how frequently certain sites, Amazon in particular, just changed its pricing for even one SKU during the course of a day. And what we see is that if one retailer is actually changing the price during certain parts of the day and others do not change their price in lockstep, it is less likely that the retailer that doesn't change the price and has a higher price is less likely to actually convert the shopper. So that's an important piece to keep in mind, is that particularly in a world where you're offering commodities for sale that are broadly available, and if those commodities are available for lower prices online, and those prices may change on an hourly basis or a few times a day, it is really, really difficult to also, of course, manage that manually. But if you can manage that in an automated fashion and then react to what the rest of the industry is doing with its prices, the better it is for your customers, and the more that you're able to react in real time to this really, really pressing element of the shopper experience. The number one reason that consumers choose to purchase with one retailer versus another is, in fact, price. So to be able to lead on that is an important factor. Part of dynamic pricing, of course, is not just randomly changing prices, but changing them in accordance to what competitive data says. And increasingly, we do see competitive data sources, whether that data is coming from specific solution providers that are scraping competitors, whether it's coming from certain types of price monitoring tools, or it's coming from companies that have been capturing large swaths of data in order to show this for customers, and in order to have this as an API resource that goes into other dynamic pricing tools like Camel being an example of one that has really kept track for many, many years of prices down to millions of SKUs on Amazon, or leveraging other tools like Google Trends, which also take advantage less of price, but showcase when certain themes and certain trends may be increasing in popularity versus decreasing in popularity, and that can also have an impact on what you choose to surface. Often when items are trending, and particularly if supply is low, there's often an opportunity to increase prices, and the opposite holds true if products are broadly commoditized and available in many, many different venues. I'd mentioned earlier and alluded to some of the challenges around the holiday season, and holidays in particular can be a big challenge for both marketing and merchandising, and part of that is because items move faster during the holiday season. During the e-commerce holiday season, just the 2 months of the year that are the critical part of Q4, which is November and December, they comprise a disproportionately larger percent of sales during just those 2 months versus the other 10 months. And what you have is just lots of products being sold and lots of things selling out. So what that means is that if you're still advertising those products that are out of stock because you haven't updated your database, or you haven't matched the terms that you are advertising, say from a paid search standpoint, to correspond with what's actually in stock, that's lost dollars. And we often see that happening. In fact, half of marketers actually say that they don't adjust their paid search bids, for instance, in real time. And during Q4, that's a really, really big problem, because some of the best-selling products are the ones that you naturally want to lean into. But if they're out of stock, you're directing a lot of people to your website, and they're either disappointed, or they are being directed to pages where they cannot convert. And even in spite of the fact that you may have recommendations for other items, often for consumers that are spear fishing, particularly during the holiday season, they're going to go somewhere else and purchase whatever it is they're looking for. So you really want to avoid some of those wasted dollars, and to be able to maximize them, what you're spending really from a marketing standpoint based on what's actually in stock, what are your highest margin items, and where are the places that you can actually drive conversion versus where are you leaning into that's not going to drive conversion.